one more time. Last talk in our extra gaming session will be Matt Morello presenting Social Fabric Fitness, the design and evaluation of wearable E-textile displays to support group running.
Welcome to the 36th annual ACM CHI Group Run.
Jared.
Alright, it was a good run, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh man, I'm late for another appointment, so we'll do this again next year. Alright, see you guys later.
See you later.
Hi, my name is Matt Morello from the University of Maryland, and I'm here to talk to you about the shirt I'm wearing. So, since the early 90s, in the United States, there's been unprecedented growth in running. Now, runners are using fairly sophisticated technology to track their performance data, which includes GPS watches and mobile-based applications. However, these particular products are designed for the individual. Now, we're interested in group running because there's many benefits, such as increased adherence to training, educational benefits from being able to exchange information with your peers, as well as increased enjoyment through social bonds. Additionally, it aids in training intensity. Now, social facilitation theory posits that the presence of others can increase a person's drive and focus. Additionally, Bond reframes social facilitation in terms of Goffman's presentation himself, and in the presence of others, it can motivate the individual to project an image of confidence. However, tasks that are perceived to be too difficult, performance can actually decline as the individual becomes self-conscious. Now, where we're surfacing information, we introduce a potential dichotomy between increasing motivation and increasing anxiety. So, our research fits in the intersection between wearables and sports. There are wearables that sense, and wearables that also sense and visualize. I'll now show some examples of sensing. So, Under Armour's real-time athletic monitoring system monitors both heart rate and motion. The Adidas MyCoach Elite tracks player information so that the coaching staff can analyze the activity after it's occurred. In terms of wearables and sensing and visualization, the Reebok Check Light monitors when NFL players take hits and visualizes the potential for a concussion. On the research side, TeamAware both surfaces information about the activity on the athlete at the time. Talk a little bit about our design and evaluation process. We begin with ideation and lo-fi prototyping. We then move into a parallel prototyping phase of 3 designs while simultaneously performing pilot studies. From there, we move into refining one of these designs, perform a final pilot, and then we go into our user studies. We follow that up with 2 case studies at competitive race events. And so we're going to start with ideation and prototyping. So we have to set some initial goals. So first, anything that we build has to be comfortable to wear. The hardware itself has to be robust enough such that it can survive the activity. Additionally, the display content has to be easily glanceable, as well as easy to interpret by the runners. Finally, if we've done these first 3 things right, the user experience should be improved by the addition of social fabric fitness. Now, we collaborate with a company called Runkeeper that already tracks fitness data. Our system takes that data and broadcasts it via Bluetooth to the wearable prototype. Now, the only missing component here is the battery, which powers the display. So these are the components that we have to design for. Next, we can start thinking about the types of visualizations we'd like to show our runners, as well as the information that they'll contain. So, common to running, things like pace, duration, and distance. Now, by virtue of one person tracking within the group, they're actually tracking for the entire group. So these are all shared metrics. As part of the exploratory nature of our work, we also track heart rate, which is the only egocentric metric. Additionally, we can also start low-fidelity prototyping. And this gives us a chance to take things like styrofoam, fabrics, and plastics, and approximate the user experience, as well as explore where best to place the components. So with that in mind, we can then move into a parallel prototyping phase of 3 separate designs: a custom LED matrix, an e-ink display, and a pre-release AeroGear LED matrix. So we'll talk about our prototype 1 first, and I'd just like to briefly cover our process. We have prototyping technology, prototyping visualizations, and then actually designing the enclosures that hold the hardware. Now, our first choice is selecting the controller that will actually drive the display. We then design the circuit, and finally, we send out that design for professional manufacturing. Now, this is a very early prototype. We've got one character here being displayed, and there's a message showing. Now, you might not be able to read it, which highlights the importance of diffusion, which I'll show you now. And maybe you can tell me what it says. Really easy. Have you ever coded anything? Anyone? No? All right. It says hello world, right? That's exactly what you do first. Once you have that, you would expand the breadboard and start playing with animations. And so here we have the same message just rolling in. So that's our circuit that we built in our lab. Now we can send it out for professional manufacturing. So we use Eagle to document our design. And this breadboard prototype becomes this flexible printed circuit board. So it's a 24 by 6 pixel matrix, and it comes in both green and blue. So here you can see it's extremely flexible. It's also very lightweight. It's less than 1/10 of a pound. Now, for comparison, you can see the breadboard prototype when you like to run with that on your back, and the flexible PCB. So from here, we can actually move on to the rest of our prototyping process. So the next phase is prototype those visualizations, and then actually design the enclosures to hold the hardware. So you go to your craft store, you get one of everything, and you take it back home and you build enclosures out of all this material, as well as experiment with diffusion materials. So we have things like cork and vinyl and fabrics. So we build the enclosures, we integrate the hardware, and then we apply this diffusion layer. And at the end of that process, we're left with 2 flexible PCBs, 2 Arduino Pro Minis, and a battery, our basic system overview. Additionally, the enclosure is made of pleather, there's a Velcro perimeter, and there's a cotton diffusion layer, and this is to allow visibility. Now, what I'd like to point out is that runners don't want to carry any additional weight. So the display itself is 67 grams. The total weight is 153 grams, and for comparison, your iPhone is about 140 grams. So not too bad. We have 24 by 12 pixels to work with and a refresh rate that allows us to perform basic animations. Now we can move on to our E-ink display. Now, this is interesting because under direct sunlight, it's still visible, and you can also see it from multiple angles. So our process changed a little bit. We actually have to source this type of display from a company. We then redesign our visualizations and again, produce an enclosure. So our display comes from Plastic Logic, it's based in Germany. And again, we design the visualizations, we close it up, and now we've got basically a flexible Kindle that you can wear on your back. And it's not too bad, but the animation is a little bit slow, as you can see, just click there. So in terms of the system overview, I'd like to point out that the controller actually is outside of the enclosure and has to be worn on a running belt. What this means is the actual total system weight goes up to 412 grams because essentially the person is running with a small Linux computer on the hip. Moving on to prototype 3, this is the commercial LED matrix. Essentially when we get that, we can go immediately into deploying our visualizations and integrating it with a shirt, as you can see here. You see it's extremely flexible, just like prototype 1, and it's almost the same weight. Take a look at the design. It's, again, 2 LED matrices, 2 controllers, and a battery. So the display weight is actually 47 grams, and the total system weight is 162 grams. However, there's 32 by 16 pixels and a faster refresh rate for animations. Now, simultaneously to this parallel prototyping, we're also informally evaluating them in our pilot studies with people in our lab. The goals of these pilot studies are to evaluate comfort, examine viewability, investigate the robustness of the hardware, and gain qualitative reactions to both the experience and the process that we'll use when we actually recruit participants. So here you can see prototype 3. Here's prototype 1 and 2 side by side. And here's us experimenting with the processes we'll use moving forward. We're also giving our pilot testers our pre and post surveys to make sure that we're collecting the data that we're interested in. Additionally, we examine viewability by using all those fabrics and things that we collected before. And as an example, you can see here, prototype 1 and 2, under direct sunlight, you can see the E-ink display, but the LED matrix is completely washed out. If we reverse those lighting conditions, the LED matrix shines and the E-ink display is not able to be seen. Interestingly enough, prototype 3 was actually viewable in both lighting conditions. So at this point, it's time to make our final choice and do some refinement. So we did go with prototype 3 because it was the most robust, it was fairly lightweight, and it was viewable. So we update our visualizations based on our pilot testers' feedback. And we also noticed that before the activity, our pilot testers would set a target pace for themselves during the activity. And so we decided we wanted to support that through a shared goal visualization. So our system allows the users to insert a goal pace, and then we record the last 9 minutes of their pace averages. which we visualize using bar graphs. So if they're running faster, then there's a bar graph pointed down. And they might do this for several minutes before reaching their goal pace, and they might establish the goal pace for several minutes. Then they might start running slower, and the bar graphs will point up higher. So now they're running slower than the set pace. And so what that looks like altogether, you see the goal pace, the range of the graph. You'll then see the 9 minutes of history, and then that'll scroll again. We'll show you the height of the range of the graph, and then we'll show you that goal pace to reinforce it. So at this point, we're now ready to move into our field studies. So we recruit 10 pre-established social running groups from our local area. And our procedure is as follows. We arrive at a location of their choosing, and then we give them an overview of the system, and we ask them to select who is going to wear the prototype and who is going and what that goal pace is going to be, so that's all choices that the users are making. We then administer a pre-study questionnaire, which asks them about their running habits, as well as why they choose social running. Then they go on a 30 to 60-minute activity, which again is chosen by the group. And that's because some runners might be going out for personal fitness, other runners might be training for a marathon, so they select the activity. From there, when they come back, we administer a post-study questionnaire to evaluate the experience, and then we follow it up with informal interviews. So, as we start user study, I get ready for some very early mornings and some very late evenings. Working with runners, that's how it is. So, our field study participants are 10 groups, 52 individuals, 35 of them female. The average group size is 5, the average age is 41. The average target pace that was set is about 10 minutes per mile, and the average distance that they run was 3.5 miles. Now, we analyzed the Likert scale survey data to uncover trends and use the interview and open form data to provide context to the results. So, we can divide our results into several themes: comfort, display content, awareness, and motivation, as well as user experience, group of using, self-consciousness, and comparisons to other technology. However, we're only going to be able to talk about 5 of these. So, comfort was evaluated on a 7-point Likert scale, where higher is more comfortable. The battery, that's on my hip, it performed the best. Our display performed almost equally as well. And that's because when you approach runners, you show them with all these components that they have to wear, they're initially going to feel that it's uncomfortable. But once they actually got into the activity, it was really unnoticed. Surprising to us was that the armband, something that's accepted by the running community, was rated to be the most uncomfortable part of the experience because it's heavy. Now we started talking about the display content. We asked which of our displays was most important to the run itself, to motivating the activity. And so pace was rated highly, followed by distance and duration. Now the visualization came in 4th, and that's probably because it's not as glanceable and it's slightly more complex than the 3 previous displays. Heart rate was deemed pretty much unimportant by all of our participants. In terms of now that we're visualizing content, we can talk about data awareness. And of course, all of our runners said they felt more aware of the data and they were more focused on the activity, which ties into motivation when they say that they feel that they're pushing on their efforts and they're motivated to run faster than the pace is being displayed. And this was pretty much a very common experience by all our runners. Now, we want to touch back on social facilitation and presentation of self, so we asked specifically about feelings of self-consciousness. And so everyone expected to feel self-consciousness. But with the exception of one of our wearers, all the others did not really experience this during the run. So at this point, from our informal interviews, all of our participants said that we should deploy in a competitive race environment. So we followed this up with 2 case studies. So we recruited 4 individuals, and pretty much the rest of our procedure was the same. So here you can see a race. We're still evaluating the same metrics that we did in our field studies, but I'd like to drill down specifically on interactions between our wearers and other competitors. So here what you'll see is another wearer actually notices the display, comes up, and he's commenting that this is like a digital dashboard for running. And so it's providing with all this great information, and now he's feeling kind of motivated to just pass our runner. Good news there. I'd also like to add an anecdote that one of our runners actually received a gold medal for his performance that day. It was the first time he'd ever actually medaled in a race. Looking at his survey data, he actually said that he felt the need to run faster because his performance was on display. So, there are some limitations to this work. Obviously, there's a novelty effect. Everyone uses this once. Additionally, there are researchers present, which introduces observational bias. Now, in terms of future work, all of our participants want to see helpful messages, like good job, keep going. You could also imagine integrating with social media so that third-party observers can tweet in encouragement. finally, we'd like to see if our work can apply cross domains. So you can imagine deploying on bicycles, tennis, swimming, all sorts of good things. So in summary, this work contributes to two rapidly growing areas, personal informatics and wearable technology. Through parallel prototyping, iterative design, and exploratory studies, we demonstrate the potential to motivate group fitness performance with wearable technology. At this time, I'd like to thank my co-authors. We'd also like to thank Runkeeper for their software, Aerogear for their hardware, and Nokia for funding our participants. Thank you very much.
James Landon from Cornell Tech. That was really great, and I like it, and as someone who attempts to run, would love the system, but one thing I was really curious about, you didn't talk about the social cohesion stuff, and I just wonder, that seems what's key to this versus, why not wear my Pebble watch and it shows me the stuff, so tell us some more about those results. Why do
Absolutely.
Why do I want it?
So, by having a shared display, we're making all this information accessible to everyone. Not everyone's tracking. So one thing that we actually noticed is that, so you have the wearers up front, right? And so they can't really see the display. And one of the interactions that occurred was that the people observing would actually call out the information to them, which kind of facilitated more conversation within the group. And so those details, you can read about in the paper as well. But we definitely saw increased interaction and increased just general chatter within the groups.
Hey, Scott Saponos, Microsoft Research. This is really cool. I can't wait to see it out there. Going back to the results where you showed that the least interesting thing was heart rate, I was curious, were you showing that person's heart rate to other people?
Yes, we were showing, so they were wearing a heart rate monitor on their chest, and so that was tracking only the wearer's data, and of course, most people did not find that helpful during a run.
Have you guys started looking at if there's multiple people wearing the system, being able to detect who's behind you and use it as your own dashboard?
We've definitely considered that, as well as in the race context. It'd be great if you had like other wearers and you could track their position along the race. So we've definitely considered opening this up to like kind of a more networked approach, but at the moment we're not currently supporting that.
Thanks.
Yep. Other questions? No? Want to see the shirt again?
Joe Marshall, University of Huntsville. Have you considered how this will work in coached environments? Because I can see it being really useful.
I could actually absolutely see this being deployed in coaching environments, and that would be similar to the Adidas products that we saw earlier, except again it'd be visualization like in situ during the activity, which would be extremely helpful in a lot of different contexts. Other questions?
No more questions. Let's thank all our speakers one more time.